Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thanks for coming to listen to us. This is not just a discussion about Bermuda or just about digital capital. This is about how we can contribute to real positive social change. Before we talk about you and your wonderful country, I would like to, if I may, share with the audience a little bit more about you. And if it's okay, I'd like them to get to know the real Premier Burt.
Oh boy.
I'm going to ask you your 3 H's. Your hero, perhaps somebody who shaped you. A hardship moment that perhaps tested you. And a highlight from either your professional or personal life. Premier Burt, your 3 H's.
Oh, so you started with a softball question, huh, Jamie? Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon, Wyoming. It's a pleasure to be back here at SALT. So let's see. Hero would have to certainly be my parents. I never saw them work for anyone. They gave me my entrepreneurial spirit, as they're both entrepreneurs. So I was grateful to be blessed with persons that mirrored or gave an example of hard work. Hardship would be, I'm reminded very often of the difficulties that we had to go through, and because I've been doing this job for 9 years, and hardship without question would have been running a country through a pandemic, which is not an experience that I would wish on my worst enemy, because it is just incredibly grueling and challenge. If we want to talk highlight, I mean, I can go to narrow highlights because when you're a politician, there's so many different things that you get to do. But I guess I would say highlight is in this role is that we're actually seeing the manifestation of what we dreamt of in digital finance. And there were a lot of people who at the beginning said that we were just crazy, that it wasn't right what we were doing, that it's the wrong path, it's the wrong path for the country. And then to see all those same people who had those opinions now come around and embrace and praise and say different things, I guess that's, kind of makes you feel good.
Yeah, and we're going to come back to that digital finance in Bermuda, but tell us about your background and how you made the transition to government, from whatever you were doing before to government.
So I'm a tech nerd, and I don't play sports. I hate physical activity. I hate the outdoors. So we're in this place and all the rest. Find me an AC and a computer, and I'll be fine with an internet connection. But it was tech that drove me to politics, actually. It was tech. It was when I first moved back to Bermuda. I had joined my party and I had worked on tech items, and I started getting very good. And apparently, if you are in a political party and you have an ability to utilize data in order to make sure that people win elections and seats, you seem to then become more popular inside the party. And so that was my path into politics. It was through tech, which is my first love.
All right, let's switch it up. Let's go back to Bermuda here. So most jurisdictions talk about digital finance. You've been doing it since 2018. When did the shift move from being a good place to register a digital asset company to a place where ordinary people actually use it? How come Bermuda? How did you get it right as a country?
So, I mean, one of the lessons which I'll say, and of course I need to be very careful of my language, noting that, Congressman just got off stage and there may be more around, is the fact that we approached this from the very beginning, just looking at what is best for the jurisdiction. And we came at this from the perspective that we wanted our insurance industry to be able to innovate in Bermuda. That's really where this came from. This wasn't around, I was orange-pilled on my way into office, and then I said, we have to have Bitcoin, we have to have Bitcoin, we have to have Bitcoin. None of that was the case. It was literally from the perspective of blockchain is going to kill everything. If we don't allow companies to innovate in Bermuda, they'll innovate somewhere else. And that's where this started. But I guess I would say from the long term about how we got it right is the fact that we did not just look at it from my own perspective. It wasn't just the government and the ministers of the government saying, this is what we want to do. There was some of this at first, but there was I guess I'd say, humility to listen to advice of, as I called it at that point in time, the graybeards who didn't want us to go forward with this, but at least to understand what was their particular challenges and make sure we got it right. And I made a number of other steps. Like one step I did, I hired a fierce critic of the government because I thought that he could add a tremendous value to the work which we're doing. And he actually did add tremendous value. He enabled us to adjust our strategy, pivot our strategy, serves as my first digital finance advisor, and we're able to do a lot of things and land a lot of companies and make progress there. So I guess the thing that is the case is that Bermuda, we practice what we've done all the time. It's the Bermuda Triangle, as we call it, which is the relationship between government, industry, and the regulator, and we made it work. So from that aspect, the lesson I'd say to other jurisdictions is try as best as possible to let self-interest come out of the fore and look at the best long-term play for the jurisdiction. That's what we did, and that's why I've been able to be successful.
I'm no sycophant. They're the words, there are real examples of what you guys have done. And I'm going to share that with the audience here. I'm going to look, I can't see the video people, but you have a real-world example of putting social impact through digital finance. You put digital dollars into your own residents' hands, who then spent them with local vendors. Let me show you, if the video people could play that video for me. It's a short video, but this is real.
Amazing. A whole entire room, I saw it myself, got an airdrop, regulated USDC here in person. So receiving the USDC was really smooth, was a quick, simple tap of the card, and then it was in the wallet.
Very straightforward. Just install the app, scan the QR code, and you get your money.
With my USDC, I was able to buy a t-shirt.
I think the opportunity for Bermuda vendors is huge. Seamless, quick, get your goods and get out and not have to worry about having the cash and all of that on you. So it's exciting to see this many people engaging with this type of technology. So fingers crossed we can make this happen and we can see this deployed in small businesses all throughout the island.
So my
You and
team
your colleagues should feel very proud of achieving that.
My team should know better.
Well done. Very, very well done. That's real.
Because remember, I spoke about the highlight. Witnessing that, recognizing that it's a culmination of work that's been done, is very powerful for me. It really is. Because it took a lot to get there. It took a lot of people. But to see a room full of people all throughout actually engaging, it means a lot.
And that's why I wanted to show this amazing community of people. I wanted to show them it in real life. And it's not stopped there. And I know you've not stopped there.
That is correct. It's not stopped because the teams will continue to work. So the promise of digital finance, what we want to do, is to make sure that the tools that are available can get into regular citizens' hands. But what you're seeing there is just the surface, because it's not just about, being able to spend with vendors. Yes, that's important. Yes, it's important to, disintermediate some of the people that are inside that, in my words, extracting rent from these particular transactions. But it's more important than that. It's also about the fact that the vendors who get the money, that the people who get the money, because our airdrop wasn't just USDC. We also were with Kraken. We did Kraken X stocks, a combination with Franklin Templeton. So these citizens got gold ETF things inside their wallets and stuff like that. This is real items. And teaching persons how you can use new digital finance products to invest and to have access to products that people would not typically have access to. So it is very powerful, and we just have to continue to work and press on it. But literally, I remember in that room, it was incredible.
Yeah, and don't forget your other colleagues there. Apex Group, I'm the executive chairman of the foundation. We have $3 trillion with our headquarters in Bermuda, and it's great to partner with you. I want to just keep going on this, if you don't mind.
No problem.
There's people in this room.
But my team knows that they're in trouble for putting that video up and not showing me.
It's my fault.
Yeah,
I'm
gotcha.
taking it, yeah. I didn't tell them. Okay. You're thinking about a digital Bermuda dollar for domestic use. That's serious ambition. Let's hear.
Well, I mean, in Bermuda, I like to say that we have the world's original stable coin, which is the Bermuda dollar, because the Bermuda dollar has always been pegged to the US dollar. And so from our perspective, it's just a digital representation of that. But you cannot have a society. We went to Davos. We said that we were going to put the world's first fully on-chain economy. And so what we're not going to be able to do is do that without digital rails. But we are working with our partners to go ahead and bring that to market, because we don't want to do it from a central government perspective. A central government perspective, of course, will, it yields a whole lot of different risks. So we're basically mirroring it how we do it right now with the private sector, and making sure that those persons can bring those partnerships can bring that money to use. But the real power in this is not just the spending domestically. It is about the saving. It is about investment. It is about access to investment products that typically you had to have a whole lot of money in order to do. So now in Bermuda, even when we're talking about insurance contracts and other types of things, catastrophe bonds, where the ticket sizes, used to be like $50,000 or something like that, whereas now those things have been tokenized, so people can buy into them with $20 and have the same access that people who have a lot of wealth. And those are things which are happening in Bermuda right now. And so from that perspective, we want to make sure that we expand that. And our view is that we need to have, a digital representation of our currency in order to do that.
I agree with you on the power. I see the power somewhere else.
Okay.
And I'm excited to ask you this question.
Go on.
Imagine a world where what you've done could work. Governments and charity could deliver assistance. And this is where I'll get emotional. Imagine if we can get the money to the people who need it using the stuff you've done.
Well, absolutely, and I think that is, as we all know, that's the promise of digital finance. And so some of the people which we've met with on this trip as well are trying to go ahead and push and to promote that further. But when you look at how governments deliver social assistance, whether it's in a small community like Bermuda, where you only have 65,000 people, whether it's on a global level, the reality is that digital finance tools will enable us to make sure that we get the money to the people who need them. Say that there's a lot of foundations where the people are taking all the money and a lot of things don't actually reach the people who need it at the end. But when you're talking about these type of systems which you can build, where the technology and the software, et cetera, make sure that type of those things don't happen, and the people who actually need the money get it, and it can be spent in those ways, I think is particularly powerful. So what we're doing in Bermuda in our financial assistance programs, we are actually going to start delivering those matters in an electronic way, which just makes it easier from our side for administration, which makes it easier on the other side, and of course it clears up on the compliance and after effects, because the accounting can automatically be done, and so you don't have to do those things on a manual basis. So that's exciting.
You know that money that goes somewhere else? We have two names for that.
What's that?
The polite one is the unnecessary leakage. When it goes in the wrong direction and is paying for all these foundations and stuff. I'm not going to tell you the other one. On stage, it's not polite.
No problem. I appreciate that.
In your view, where is the real power and future of innovation in financial services? And where does it start? Is it governments? Is it companies? Is it capital? Is it technology? Where is it? And before you answer that, my second question linked to that first question is, what is riskier for society and business? The technology moving too quickly, or institutions not moving quick enough?
Ooh, okay. So I don't think that we can control the pace of technological change because of the fact that we live inside of a broadly capitalist world. Let's put it that way. And so the incentives to continue to innovate will continue to be there. And I don't believe that that's a problem that can be solved. I think that the risk of technology advancing too fast is a risk, but I don't think there's anything that you can do in order to stop that. You're not going to stop innovation. You're not going to stop people from figuring out a better way of doing something, et cetera, all the rest. And so when you look at the other side of it, is it a question of institutions moving too slowly? Well, I mean, yes, clearly, there's a challenge. There's a challenge with people sometimes getting out of their own way. There's a challenge with people, wearing gray suits like you, just sitting there, and not being able to understand the basic principles of what they're trying to do in order to regulate. So certainly, it's a question of institutions moving too slowly. I mean, we don't have that problem in Bermuda, but even we can be accused of being moved too slowly. And if we're looking at a jurisdiction that moves as quickly as we can, then clearly that's a broader issue. And I think that from the way that actually works is that governments need to find a better way to work together to understand this and to recognize that this technological change is coming. And if we do not come together, and I think there's more work that's being done around that, around the risk and harms of AI, those type of items. And those are things that, in the future, I want to continue talking about more because I think that it's particularly important. But yeah, unquestionably, it is institutions moving too slowly. Now, the question is, where's the power? The power will always be in the consumer. And I think that markets are incredibly powerful. And the reality is that when persons and consumers have various choices of where they can spend, what they can do with those things, I think that's where the power is. So it would be, without question, the institutions, but power lies with the people who are spending the money.
Power with the clients. I agree with that. I agree. Right. The hardest part of any inclusion program is the last part. The person who doesn't want a new app or doesn't trust it or doesn't think it's for them. How do you solve that? How does industry solve that? How do companies solve that?
Well, companies solve that by building better products. And the reality is, if we look at blockchain products right now, they're getting better. But 2 years ago, they were bad. 4 years ago, they were terrible. Now they're getting better, and they just need to. But the reality is the technology in itself is still nascent, even though, people will say that we're, 17 years in. It's still nascent in a large number of factors. So I think that's really what's important, to make sure that the technology is easy. So when we go back to the digital finance forum, I was thrilled when, we got a wallet that came from a certain company, and we installed it, and these things worked. And it was incredible. To hear people, when I go to a political meeting where there's, 70-year-old grandmothers, waving their phone in the air and saying, "I got gold from the premier. He said it's gold," and all the rest. And I'm like, it wasn't me. It was our wonderful partners at Kraken and Franklin Templeton. But you understand. So, from that perspective, that can be particularly I would say that could be a particular powerful thing. But the reality is, the people are only going to use things that actually make their lives easier. And they're not going to do things that make it more difficult. And the challenge that we're going to have when we're all talking about, this technology and different things like that, right now people are used to, you go pay, you just put your phone down, and you go, oh. If it's more complex than that, then that's going to be a problem because people already have something easier to do. So industry has to continue to work in order to make that happen. Governments can do it from, I don't want to say a coercive nature, by saying you have to use this in order to, but we'll see how that comes.
I understand this is your last term as Premier.
People like to throw that L word around a lot. Go on.
How do you see the work continuing past your administration? And 5 years from now, how would we measure what you did and what happened?
So it is true. I did promise my family that I would only serve 2 full terms as leader of the Progressive Labor Party, and my second full term ends at the end of October. So this is kind of the wind down. What would I view as success? I would view as success of the fact that I think that we have set up something that works institutionally in Bermuda. We have the support of the regulator, we have the support of the civil service, we have the support of industry, we have the support of a broad number of people, the service providers, et cetera, who recognize that an advance in digital finance is in the country's national interest. So, if you look at 2030, I would say that the view would be for there to be, more digital finance companies doing more things, solving problems in the world, and making sure that we continue to be a highly innovative jurisdiction. And my work, though I will leave the office of Premier, I'm still going to remain in Parliament, I'm still going to be a spokesperson, and I am going to make sure that I remain relevant to the space, because I think that it's important that we remember what this whole thing started from, and it was around the democratization of finance, putting power in people's hands, et cetera. And I think that a lot of times we lose sight of that because of persons looking at how they're going to, make more money or do more things or concentrate more power, different things like that. And the very basis of where this whole thing started was by making sure we could democratize finance and put more power into people's and citizens' hands. So I'm going to continue to speak about that and continue to make sure that we remember that there is good that can come from this. This whole project started from persons who came out of a crisis, who wanted to make sure that the world could be better. And I think it's important that we continue to carry out that narrative and put the full promise technologies to work to make sure that people have the power and it can actually be power for good.
And before I ask you the last question, be very clear, nobody will forget the contribution you and your teammates made. They will remember. You used the word remember 3 or 4 times in that answer. Nobody will forget.
Got you.
We're invited back to Wyoming, you and I.
Oh, really?
2030. What's happened? How did you spend your time?
Huh? How do I spend my time? I'll still be a politician, hopefully. No. I mean, the reality is that Wyoming is a fantastic place, and I think that full credit also needs to be given to a like-minded jurisdiction that continues to press ahead. So if I'm back here in 2030, I'll also be singing the same song I'm singing right now about the way that we press forward on these things.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever wondered what a world-class Fireside guest looked like, you just saw it. Premier Burt.
Thank you, everyone.